Welcome back to another episode of the Gruesome Garage, and today we're going to be tinkering on this beast, doing a few things like an oil change, diff cover, because that one's not so pretty and it's going to get damaged pretty fast. So of course we got ourselves over there a Ruff Stuff diff cover, but before we get into that, we're explaining, I'm going to do an oil change. I'm going to fix the stupid oil filter adapter that is on a Renix. I don't know why it sticks up, but it's the stupidest idea I've ever seen in my life. We're gonna try to extract the adapter off of this scrap 4.0 that we have, and hopefully we can get it to bolt right on. I don't see why it shouldn't, but we'll check it out. Oh yeah, look at that diff cover. Looking pretty awesome. You know, I think that they're built so well, it hurts me to paint them, so I just throw a little paint on the logo and clear it, and it's ready to stick on. It holds up pretty well. If you see my front done the same way, just clear coat and some paint, and it works perfect. Another thing we have to address today is it looks like our transfer case is wet. Looks like it's coming out of the tail shaft. So I guess we're gonna have to take that off and clean it up. We got the beauty draining. I wish we had smell-o-vision, because you guys all know what gear oil smells like, and I'd love to share this lovely juice with you guys. I wish you guys could smell it with me. Not. Smells gross. Let it drain out, and then I get to show you guys my deep dark secret about the rear end that I'd like to change sooner or later. I'd like to get one wheeling season out of it before I spend the money, but she's welded. Out with the old. You can see I had a lube blocker on it. I could probably reuse it again, but I really macked it up on the bottom where the rocks are and pulled the diff cover a little out. So I'd really like to start fresh. I ordered another lube blocker. Guys, I highly suggest these things, especially if you're wheeling or doing stuff where you're taking your diff cover off just to inspect crap. I highly suggest a lube blocker so you don't have to cut off all the RTV, put it back on, blah blah blah, get covered in blue goo, gray goo, red goo, copper goo, silver goo. Whatever goo you choose is not the right goo. Just get a gasket. Honestly, it's worth it after a while. I think they're like, you know, $15–20. Like after a couple of tubes of RTV, you know, it pays for itself. You can also see my disaster in here, the weld job. A few years ago I ordered a locker for the rear, obviously the lunchbox. The night before we were going to go out wheeling to Roush Creek, we found out when I took it apart that this is actually in limited slip diff, and the locker wouldn't work in it, so we pulled out the welder, cleaned it, and got to welding. It's held up great, you know, a couple wheeling trips. I drive it on the road, and the axle shafts are still okay, and the middle's still okay. Pretty surprised. It doesn't look too bad in there either. There's maybe a little crumb in there from when we welded, but really nothing bad. Let's get this thing dripping so we can cover it back up and start putting some more yummy fluid back in. While we wait on this thing to, you know, absorb a little oil so we can get a clean surface for the lube blocker, and while we wait for paint to dry, I decided I was gonna check out the oil sensor. Got it right off the block, super easy. Looks like it's about the same as this one. So I pulled it off. We're gonna clean it up, and we're gonna put it on this one. Obviously I'm gonna change the filter. I don't need to see any comments. Oh, you're gonna use that old filter? Yep, exactly what I'm talking about, why I hate this. Just creates a mess down the whole thing. Pretty control arms. Just messy mess. No more of that. Let's get this beast off. Old one is out. It's a 5/8 bolt. Comes right out. And I thought about, you know, why not just rotate it? And then I realized from doing these O-rings before that this actually has like a slot right here where a pin sits in, so you can't really rotate it unless you machine a new slot. And why do that when you got junkyard parts lying around? And you can put the new one in. So the new one's in, works like a charm. The new one has a T60 Torx on it. I got this Torx socket set specifically for doing these O-rings, and it doesn't fit in between the housing and the unibody. So as you can see over here, you just take the socket out of the adapter, you stick it in, it fits in a 14 or 9/16, put a little tape on it, and it's ready to go. Work as a perfect tool for your oil pressure sender. Let's see if this thing leaks or not. I used some old O-rings, they looked good. Let's fill this thing up with oil. Not only oil, but the only oil that I like to use in 4.0s. The Turbo 4.0 making 300 horsepower likes it. So why not a stocker Renix, right? Gonna use some Rotella and some oil stabilizer. Since it's getting warmer out, we're going with the 1540. And we'll see how she likes it. Let's see if our concoction was a success. Let's see if we have a no leak. Would you look at that? Dry as a bone. Whoa, whoa, wee, whoa. Looks like our solution worked. No more explosion out of the oil filter when we go to change the oil. Let's get back to the diff cover. Seems like it's dry. We'll throw it on in there. Got it all cleaned up. I had to clean up the bottom a little because somebody decided to bash some rocks with it and it was a little concaved. So clean that up. Ready to put our brand new lubie locker on. A brandy new. Yoo-hoo. Let's get it all matched up. I like to put one bolt in, get the diff cover on, and boom, 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 go to all the others. Let's see what this thing looks like on an old beat up 60. Hopefully it makes it a little prettier than it already is. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, honestly. It's a lot easier because I can kind of sit under here because it's so tall. And started with the top two bolts, worked my way around, screwed them all in. Then, you know, I did myself kind of like a valve cover torque pattern where I started with the inside bolts and worked my way out, going opposite of each other. And that seems to be the trick for almost anything valve related, or not valve related, gasket related. Works like a charm. No leakies. Let's fill her up and make sure, now that I said this, we have no leakies. Now the cool thing about these rough stuff diff covers also is that the filling point is a lot higher than stock, where the filling point is usually like here on a stock one, and I think it's a little deeper. It sticks out a little more, so it's got a little more fluid. Now I highly suggest, guys, unless you want to dump a ton of these in, kind of gets annoying after a while, I highly suggest getting one of these suckers. Little pump, cheapy, works like a charm. Just slowly pump until it starts leaking out the top, and you know that it's properly filled. Put the cap back on, let it sit for a while, see if it leaks, and we'll give this thing a full send again. Celebratory beer right here. We got everything that I wanted today done and accomplished. Got the oil thing done. Got my rear end done. Looking pretty sick, I have to say so myself. Nothing like lipstick on a pig. And we finally got to the last thing. Sorry, my brother was using the camera. I recorded this, but it's pretty boring anyway. It was the T-case was leaking out the rear. Not anymore. For some reason, I don't know what it was, but I took the tail housing off and none of the RTB that I put on was actually dry. I remember it drying when I put it on like 5 years ago. I'm curious if maybe it wasn't ATF friendly or something, but it was literally a paste when I pulled it off, just like fresh RTV. So, put some ATF friendly stuff in, refilled the T-case, and I think we're good to go. Also did a little wiring. My heater, gauges, everything likes to stop working every so often. So I had to deal with nightmare in here. We got it working again. The fuse block is definitely on its way out. I think it's time for a new one. I don't know, I think I'm just gonna order a painless, patch it in, put it back in the same spot. All the little pins where the fuses go are loose as a goose, and some of them are just corroded and rotten, and you know, dielectric grease can only do so much. So tune in next time, guys, and I promise this thing will be road worthy. Well, it is now, but I just gotta clean out the inside a little, and then I can have a passenger record me, and we can take this thing for a ride, and you can see how much of a dumpster it really is. All that time and work. You can polish a turd, it's still a turd. Tune in next time.